Articles 61 and such like. So give a big hand for David.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you all for coming to this talk. I'm going to have to rattle through a bit quickly, more than I wanted to because of the time limit we've got. So I'm just going to basically talk about the invocation of Article 61 and the Lawful Dissent movement that we are a part of. Now, I entered into the Lawful Dissent movement in 2010 after I came across John Harris's talk at Glastonbury, where he gave me the understanding that Article 61 had been invoked according to the correct protocols of British constitutional law. Now, I found this information very exciting indeed, because before then I had a good understanding about the treason and the occupation of our country by the EU and the United Nations through meeting Elizabeth Beckett, who was basically one of the original council tax assessors, and the UK column spread on her. But the basic thing was she gave me a good understanding of the longevity of this deception and the gravity of it. And she had the Treaty of Amsterdam, Maastricht, Rome, and so I could actually see for myself, because I thought she was a loony to start with, to be quite honest, but she actually showed me and was my mentor for a couple of years. So I had a good understanding of what was actually going on before I actually joined the rebellion, the dissent movement. So I met with John Harris, and I quickly went off and bought myself a computer to do my own research on it to make sure the remedy was actually viable. And I found out that it was all actually absolutely true. Article 61 had been invoked according to the correct protocols of British constitutional law on the 23rd of March 2001. Even it reported in some of the mainstream press on pages 15 rather than the front page where it should have been reported. However, so I had a discrepancy with the DVLA. I was living in a 7.5 ton truck at the time, and I decided that it was illegal for me to pay tax, so I was no longer going to do so. Now, I got a fine from DVLA, £80 fine, and I used the process that we use today. I conditionally rebutted, or conditionally accepted that fine on proof that they had jurisdiction to demand it, since Article 61 had come into effect. Well, that set off a series of notices that I had to send off. So I had this conditional acceptance, and when they ignored that or rebutted it without, ignoring it in substance, the notice of default and opportunity to secure. And then we finished up with the notice of default to show that they're actually in default, they're in dishonour, and they just ignored all the facts anyway. So we got everybody in the process that I went up against. Also got the notice of misprision of treason, and I did that with everybody involved, which will happen to be the police, the courts, DVLA, and bailiffs and other agents that came after me. Now, I'm just cutting that to a really quick story there, because it could go in a lot of detail with that, but I won't be able to now. And what happened was I ended up with a stalemate situation. Of course, the so-called courts, the illegal courts, they convened in my absence after I was first dragged into the courts and managed to get leave to prepare my defence. So I said I have absolute evidence of treason being committed, and I was able to get not unconditional bail at that time. But I never went back to the court hearing, even though I did actually try. I was actually in doublethink at the time. I was part of the Freemen on the Land movement, which I've since realised was never going to remedy the situation, because typically under the Freedom of the Land movement, they use their courts and their rules against them, which gives those rules and those courts credibility by doing that. I just stuck with Article 61, I stuck with the Constitution, and just used that in my rebuttals. So that the reason for that is because anyone who denies the Constitution will have to have committed sedition if they do so publicly. And so anyone that was going to come after me after they've been put on notice of the fact that treason has and is being committed would be aiding and abetting or committing high treason themselves. So I got to a stalemate situation with the whole regime. They convened in my absence, fined me about £1,000, put out a no bail arrest warrant out for my arrest. And I received a lot of intimidation from the Wiltshire police at the time, because I was based in Devizes. And I put on notice the Chief Inspector Ian Copus of Devizes headquarters. He was the Chief Constable of Road Traffic Policing for Wiltshire, and I ended up putting him on notice of treason as well, and ever since I did that, all communication stopped. He had no recourse. All he could do was commit crimes against me by rebutting the Constitution, therefore they just gave up. However, I still got intimidation, and so I moved out of the area to save myself the grief, and I went up to Yorkshire. And I spent about 18 months in Yorkshire with some of my good Freeman friends. There were some very, very good friends in the Freeman movement, and they helped me out a lot in those early days. What happened up in Yorkshire, I put together a large affidavit, put it all together in one large document, including several defences, and also using John Anthony Hill, who did his defence with the legality of the monarch, basically. So I put all that together in a large document, sent them all off to everyone concerned, and tried to remedy the matter by gaining a properly convened court de jure. Because you see, anyone that was going to deny me that publicly would be committing treason, because everyone has the right to a jury of their peers, of the people. And I wasn't going to accept to be tried by a corporate court that denies the common law. So obviously we're not going to get remedy in that. To cut a long story short, the DSS went after me, stopped my entitlements. I had a lot of corruption from the regime since then on benefits and stuff, because I'm disabled and was in receipt of benefits at the time. And they stopped all that and forced me into basic property, living on about £21 a week DLA, lower rate, for about 4 years. What I did was I went into Bath City Police Station with a friend of mine, who recorded it, and I went in there to hang myself in. There was a warrant out for my arrest. And what happened was I went in there with a pile of evidence of 5 individuals who committed treason against me. And the police sergeant wasn't very interested. He was a bit of a joker, actually. But he still phoned up Chippenham Magistrates Court, who had convened in my absence, and Chief Inspector Ian Copus to find out what they should do. And they were told that the matter is being dealt with, and get rid of him, really. Because they didn't arrest me, they just wanted me out of the police station. And that's when I realised, actually, that's the stalemate. They weren't going to arrest me, I was forcing it on them, but they wouldn't do it. And so I was kind of, I wasn't a fugitive from the rules, because it's not law. I was just in a stalemate situation. So what I did was I took it to the people. So I went to Glastonbury, and I did a talk down in Glastonbury of about 3 hours, and I gained the support of some of the people in Glastonbury. I ended up staying there, getting a job there, so I could support myself, and we created a group. Now in Glastonbury, as a group, we put all the police on notice of the fact that Article 61 was in effect, and that they were aiding and abetting high treason. We also went after, we flyed everywhere in the town and neighbouring towns with flyers. We went out to individual groups, the clergy and solicitors, with selected DVDs that we created to show where it was going to affect them personally. We also went out to Glastonbury councillors, asking them one question. Here's the evidence of Article 61's invocation. Where are you going to stand on? Where do you stand? Each person stand on it, under it. And of course, they obscured the question, and after 3 months, they refused to give us any answer to that. So we decided that under duress and protest, and as a protest, we would seize the town hall at Glastonbury, which is what we did. Now, we did seize it successfully. There's been a lot of people not been too happy with how we did that, or why we did it, or the fact that we gave it back. But we proved our point. The police came along, they couldn't do anything. They knew we weren't committing any crime, and so they left us to it. And we gave it back at 2 AM in the morning. We made our statement, and that was that. Well, like I said, I'm rattling through this really quickly. But whilst in Glastonbury, we had a few successes. It started off with a friend of mine, Danielle Davidson, who had come to me with a problem. She did not 2 county court summonses over payments of water, and she had the district judge coming after her for a committal order for prison for 7 days. So I took power of attorney over the matter and went after the district judge with the notices, process of notices that we used. The end result was that they completely backed off. I'm just cutting this real down for you for the benefit of time. But basically, she's never served 7 days in prison. She never went to any of the summonses, and she was issued about a further 3, and threatening letters and process servers, which never turned up because we put them all on notice, and they had to be committing treason to do so. So we had that was quite a big success, really. And like I say, she's never been to court since. This is like 3 or 4 years ago now. She's never served 7 days, and she's still not paying her water because it's a stolen public service, ladies and gentlemen. Margaret Thatcher in 1986 privatised the water industry, which was bought and paid for by our forefathers, a part of the welfare state. It was a public service. You should not have ever had to pay anything apart from your income tax, which is only to keep the services ongoing, keep them updated. We should never have allowed them to privatise it. And this is what's happened with all of our services. A lot of people are realising this now. We don't have any services because they don't want us to have services, because they don't want us to be able to have democracy in our country. Now, another case that we went after was HMRC, who'd been harassing another friend of mine who gave me power of attorney to go after them instead, because she was a bit in fear. And she had a property in Glastonbury, quite an expensive property, and she had paid, under duress of circumstances, £1,700 previously for not filing tax reform return forms for the past 2 to 3 years. And the end result of that, to cut it again very short, was HMRC paid about £1,700 and cost the £1,250 they were trying to get after. They were trying to get after at that time. And all we used, and you can see the process in the layman's guide, which it needs a little bit of updating, unfortunately, because of new knowledge that's coming to our awareness, i.e. the Bill of Rights being a statute rather than a constitutional document. But this is the layman's guide, and you can see that you can buy one of those on eBay if you want an understanding of how we use the process, and you can see the successive processes that we've used in the back of the book. So another successful process that we had was the same friend of mine, Danielle. She was into growing hemp because she does a lot of juicing. She had a juice bar in Glastonbury, actually. And so she was against the hemp, the fact that you needed a license under their system to grow hemp. So she grew 36 hemp plants in a garden, probably got busted, got it all on video, and they stole her vegetable matter. Now, to cut an awful long story short again, they offered her a caution. Now, when the police came round and I was there at the scene when this happened, they came around to offer her the caution, and I said to her, well, look, the best thing we could do at this stage is just to consent to the caution under duress of circumstances. But as soon as I mentioned the words duress of circumstances, the constable at the door suddenly declined that they were going to now offer her a caution, and that they were going to actually bring a summons against her, because they've now gone through the process of checking the substances and found that it was actually cannabis, but it wasn't. Okay, but they said it was cannabis, so we said fine. You call it cannabis, bring on the summons. We'll just rebut that anyway. Which is exactly what we did. The end result of that was the Crown prosecution turned around and said, due to lack of evidence, no case to answer. And that was all we used in those 3 processes was Article 61's invocation. Do you have the authority to make this demand on me? And it's really to bring the movement into its basic refined point. That is all we're doing. We demand a properly convened court de jure, because that is treason to deny you. We all have the right to trial by jury of our peers under constitutional law, and they, of course, they know that. Judges and whatnot, those that are in the know, they back off every time. Agents of the state, water agents or HMRC agents, they're a little bit trickier because they don't understand that, they don't realise so much, and so they don't always give up quite as easily as the ones in the know, police and so-called judges. So we've had a few successes. They're only personal successes. Nothing's changed. We've still got a corporatocracy. We've still got a fascist state destroying our constitution. our rights to judge the laws and a fair trial by jury, which is what trial by juries are about. It's about the people being able to judge the legitimacy of statutes for government. Now, of course, we still have a trial by jury system, but it's not that the jurors are not able to use their duty, use their rights under the jury system to act as the judge, to act as the people who provide the sentence if they found a conviction. They're not the ones who are also able to decide what is admissible evidence either. The judge or the corporate director has taken over that role, quite treasonously so. So we've got no justice in the system. As Tom has been through the mill and find out himself, completely, absolutely, there's no justice there. So in the dissent movement, we never consent to the so-called courts, because they are not courts. They are all businesses. They have business numbers. You can see on Companies House that they are businesses and they're corporations, all running under the Ministry of Justice Corporation. And everything has become corporate, even the police, as you well know by now. But from Glastonbury, we set up a Facebook group page, Practical Lawful Dissent. We've got 13,000 members at the moment. We're quite selective. We could have had a lot more, but we don't have people that just want to cause trouble or whatnot. So Practical Lawful Dissent and Denounce the Deception is the better site, really, because Connor from Scotland, he's put out a very good, he's laid out the information much better than that on Practical Lawful Dissent. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about this, because I just haven't got the time to give you a warm sorry, then please check out the Denounce the Deception. It's a very good site for this information. We've started, we are calling ourselves the Lawful Rebellion Movement to start with, but we find that with a little bit more knowledge, that's really not quite very an accurate terminology for the movement, because the word rebellion, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, has two definitions. The first being the action of armed resistance to an established government or leader. Well, the movement is a completely peaceful movement. We use the truth only, the evidenced facts in our rebuttals, and we're not into violence. We are simply using the truth to stand personally against aiding and abetting crime, because a lot of us morally cannot aid and abet paedophiles. We cannot aid and abet terrorism. We cannot aid and abet illegal wars, genocide, and we won't do it. No matter what they do to me or the others in the movement, we're not going to comply. And the other definition is the action or process of resisting authority, control, or convention. Well, we're not resisting authority, we're resisting the lack of authority. And so for us, the word rebellion meant to resist the lack of authority. But a lot of people don't like the word rebellion. It conjures up images in people's minds of burning torches and pitchforks and violence and stuff. And so we're going to move away from that terminology. And so we pronounce ourselves to be the Lawful Dissent Movement. And what we're trying to do is appeal to everybody to understand that Article 61, when it's in a state of invocation, is mandatory. It's mandatory for a reason. Because Article 61 was designed to create unity within the population. It's not optional. You're either standing under the common law, or you are in outlawry. And the police, the so-called imposters in Westminster, the government, are all outlaws. They're all operating in outlawry at this time. And we're in a very dangerous situation here with Brexit and PESCO, with what Theresa May is doing, Theresa May as we call her. These are both acts of high treason at common law. Brexit is a trap, and I'm going to explain very briefly why that is. It's common sense to understand this, really. If you grant the Lisbon Treaty in Article 50 legitimacy to remove yourself from the European Union, you're granting it with authority, which is against the constitution of our country to allow any outside foreign influences to govern or have any authority over Britain. So Brexit is a trap. It's doublethink, and in a way it can be said that I'm glad that the people voted out because they showed their intention. But to keep up with Brexit, we're not getting it. We're not getting an exit out of the European Union. We're getting Theresa May. Theresa May is embroidering our armed forces, which will be under the control of the European Union. Now, a nation cannot be sovereign if it has not the rights and ability to defend itself. It's simple as that. And whilst the jury system remains usurped, then we are not sovereign people anymore, because we can no longer judge the government's statutes to be illegal or not. You know, the fact is that juries have the duty, not just the right, but the duty to annul unjust laws. And we're talking about, it's a moral thing. You know, we all know morally what's right and wrong. Okay, so that is like the previous speaker was saying about natural law. This is, you know, the common law is based on natural law. We are morally bound to do what is right, and that is all we are actually trying to do with the dissent movement. Is to personally no longer aid and abet crime. And like I said, we've had quite a lot of success, but lately the regime has tried to make statements, tried to take actions against us with, I'll mention the Ollie Pinnock case. Southend police arrested Ollie Pinnock and committed treason in doing so, and all Ollie was doing was asking, is it legal for me to pay council tax? Because he never refused to pay it, he was just asking if it's legal, if they had the authority to take it, and if it's legal for him to pay it. And of course he didn't get any sense in any rebuttals to his notices, and he served the correct notices on the correct people at the time. So what they could do, because you see, council tax, it's not about the money, it's about civility, people. They want to keep you down through the use of money in civility. People are afraid to go up against paying the council tax because they have properties that they may lose, or you know, they typically put attachment on your earnings, and they steal it in other ways. They put fear into people by threatening to put them into prison and whatnot. So this is what happened in Southend, and unfortunately not enough people actually are outraged enough about this, and so the police have actually become more encouraged by our inaction. And which is a very sad thing, because it's only going to get worse. And we've allowed injustice after injustice to go on unabated, and we should be ashamed of ourselves, people. You know, one act of injustice anywhere is a threat to democracy everywhere. And look at what we've seen. We've seen so many injustices. We've accepted so many injustices. We've been desensitized by that neon box in most people's living rooms, by the media, in all aspects of the media. And it's time that we woke up and we realised that, you know, we're in a very dangerous situation here right now. We're going to have to lose everything. There's a question there? Pardon?
You talk about the injustice of everything. We can see injustice in the world.
Yeah.
We want a peaceful solution.
Yes.
It wasn't the origins of the Magna Carta where we had to put the sword to King John to get him to sign it. Now, we've come to a point where we don't want violence, because nobody wants to bring violence upon the world. But when these people bring oppression to us, in that sense that they force us with debt slavery, they force us with the contrition they put upon us.
Yes.
It comes to a point where we don't want to bite back, but it comes to a point where the line's drawn and they talk offensive.
Right, okay, look, for the benefit of the audience who didn't hear the question, basically you're saying that, you know, Magna Carta gives us the right, if this is what you're saying, that we have the right to actually violate appraisal.
It's not.
Look, what?
They're pushing us into the corner.
They're pushing us into a corner, that's correct.
They want us to react.
They want us to react, which is why they're allowing Sharia law, which is totally treasonable to allow in our country. They want to create civil unrest in so many different ways. So we do not take to the streets. There's no point in doing that. He doesn't get anywhere. We don't do petitions, because we're just begging them anyway. And all they do is look at your petition with contempt and throw it in the bin. And we all know that. Nothing happens. when we do have the right to an armed uprising, but we don't want to do that, because that will play into the hands of them, because they've got all the weapons, and not all the weapons that we can see. I mean, they've got silent weapons, you know, microwave and sound weapons, and God knows what else that we don't know of. So we don't want to go down that route.
That's the point. Everyone wants to try and be peaceful.
Yeah, well, we've got a piece of remedy. I just want to finish up with that as well, if I can. Yeah. Well, I propose, we've got a proposition anyway. The group has a proposition. I haven't quite finished with, well, I've done the Ollie Pinnock thing, basically giving you the facts about that. Now, we had another friend of ours, an ally, came to us, David Robotham from Birmingham, who was in remission from cancer, and he had grown 6 cannabis plants for his own use. He was never done for a supply. And he got busted for those 6 cannabis plants, and he served 18 months in prison for that, which is a very extreme sentence for 6 cannabis plants anyway, which most people just get a caution for these days. But these are corporate courts. The Birmingham Magistrates Court is a corporate entity, intent on stealing as much as they can from people. So not only did, when David came out of prison, then not only was that sentence good enough, or for them, they went after him with the proceeds of the Crime Act about £20,000 for 6 cannabis plants. You know, so what has actually happened is they've stolen his house. This is cutting a long story really short here, but I'm doing this because obviously for the time. But so a group of us went to Birmingham. We met in the Crown Pub in Birmingham, Corporation Street, aptly named, just up from the Magistrates Court, with possibly the intent of actually going and arresting these 4 individuals at Birmingham Magistrates Court for high treason. I'd taken over a power of attorney of the matter, and David had also served them with the notices that I'd advised them to serve, but I served them with the notices as well. So we had evidence that they were in full knowledge, they were willfully aiding and abetting high treason, and they weren't going to give up. They still haven't. They took over the sale of his house because he had to sell his house. He was going to pay it under duress, otherwise he was going back to prison. He didn't want to go back to prison, and you can't blame the bloke. You know, he's not very well. He's a really nice chap. Met him once. Can't believe what the injustice of this, but then, you know, I mean, the injustice of Melanie Shaw. I mean, that's just another unbelievable injustice that we've seen to have allowed, which is, you know, to our discredit really. So to the point here. So we convened in the Crown Pub, and we decided to go and lobby the lobby. So we all of us went down, 50 of us went down to police headquarters at Birmingham, and we got them to open up a interview room and to accept the evidence of the treason of Birmingham Magistrates Court, which also included the treason committed at Maastricht, Amsterdam. Well, no, it basically also included the treason committed at Nice, because of course that is what caused the invocation of Article 61 in the first place, the fact that the Nice Treaty should not have been ratified as it was treason. And you can see the evidence of that within the Layman's Guide. In the processes that we've used, letters between Sir Robin Jambury and the Baron's position at the time proves that the Nice Treaty was treason, simple. Now, the fact, so we opened up an interview room and we recorded them accepting the evidence. And we decided, okay, well at least they've done that. We'll give them a little bit of time to look through the evidence, that's only reasonable. And so we went away kind of not satisfied, but we managed to achieve something, we thought. Well, the police came back and just said, with the basic usual government rhetoric, Magna Carta's been repealed, total lies, and left it at that. So together we created an affidavit of truth, served it onto the police at Birmingham, and got 150 to 200 of the members of the group to co-sign it, and we got no response from that whatsoever. So we left it another few weeks, and then we served a notice of willful ignorance on the police and of no confidence, and we gave them 30 days to amnesty to start acting under the rule of law. Otherwise, we would have to take action ourselves, because we have the duty as sovereign people to act as the police, because the police are ignoring the truth. Now we're going to really need to start thinking about this seriously. Now, our movement is aligned with the Chartist movement, especially in the Winchester Declaration and the Reformation Amendment. We totally agree with that. It's a peaceful, logical place to way to proceed. But we need the people. We need you. We need everyone to take responsibility for our children's sake and our own sake, for the future of our country's sake, to actually start getting off your buns and actually doing something. You know, we need to take action, but we only take peaceful action. We have a lawful excuse to arrest police constables, bailiffs, anyone that is acting against the law with full knowledge of the facts. Now, you know, we need to do this en masse, because we're never going to get anywhere if just a few of us do it, which is, you know, what we've been doing all along. So we're hoping that the Chartist movement will bring groups together. Maybe it's slightly at odds. I mean, not everyone agrees with the British Constitution. They say it should go back much further. Well, maybe that's so. Maybe we have to go back to 11 AD in the Constitution of Clarendon. I don't actually know. I'm not a constitutional expert. I'm just a layman to the law as well. I've just learned this from John online. Well, it goes very deep. It goes very deep. But well, yes, but it goes a lot deeper. And so what I'm trying to say is, we need a structured. We need to do something that's going to exact change. Now, the proposal of our movement is, since we've been up against the police, and you know, it's not the first time. Now, Burgess, he's managed to put 70 different police areas on notice of the treason, and of course, nothing's happened. So, we've kind of done all the people. We've done the lobbying. It's now time to badger the lobby. Okay? We've done the lobby bit. Now we need to badger them. Now, I suggest, and the movement suggests, that what we need to do, because the police are evidently acting as the gatekeepers for the corporations and the treasonous imposters in Westminster. Now, without them observing simply the truth, that's all we're asking them to do, is observe the truth. Without them doing that, we are going to come into confrontation with them at some point. It's obvious. There's nothing else that can occur. Now, there's about 120 to 200,000 police in Britain. Okay, yeah, they've reduced our police force for a very good reason, and that is because Eurogen 4 have been operational. The European military police have been operational since 2007, and they want them on our streets. We will have a full-blown military occupation of our country if we don't start doing something. You know, it's not just the Eurogen 4. We've got the United Nations Army as well to think about. So the point is, there's 200 the most police constables in our country. Well, they're not constables; they're policy enforcers. Let's keep it straight to the point here. That's what they are. They're not police constables anymore, and they've declared their standing now, as far as we're concerned. And you know, we need about 500,000 people who are prepared to get off their bums, go down to the police station, not in anger, not even in aggression, walk into your police station if you can get in there. I say, no guys, we're very concerned. What the hell do you think you're doing? Here's the truth. Now you're ignoring it and you're destroying our rights and our freedoms. For what? For the sake of paedophiles in Westminster. You know, we need to get to the heart of some of these police, and some of them are good guys, okay? They're trapped in the system like we are. I've had constables take me aside, and I call them constables because they have the mentalities we constables, even if they're not. And say, look, well, actually, it's quite support what you're doing. I think you do all right because, you know, I'm stuck. What can I do? If I come up against the screen, what's going to happen to me? Like we've seen with John Wedger, is it recently? What's his name, John Wedger? Yeah. I mean, we see how they even treat their own whistleblowers. And you know, the image that I have in my mind is 500,000 of us, not just convening on one court, convening on all the, not the courts, the police stations, convening, joining together and going to every single police station that's open or operative in the country. In doing that, we're going to tie them up. We're not going to be able to grab police constables from that area if we're in Birmingham to come and reinforce their illegal statutes against us, you know, for occupying and seizing their police stations. You know, we need to take that kind of action. We need to be prepared to arrest the police. We have the duties of citizens to arrest. Now, you know, it might seem a little extreme, and it may not be totally peaceful, but we don't have to go in there all guns blazing. What we need to do is we've tried to lobby the body, and they've ignored us. Now we need to badger them, and we need to put them under threat of arrest themselves. Now, it's only going to happen if we have numbers to do it, because we, you know, 5 of us go do it. Well, what are they going to do? They're going to laugh at us, kick us out forcibly, and lock the doors. I mean, we need a great majority of people to take, you know, to take responsibility. We should be outraged. The police have ignored the truth, people. We should be outraged by this.
You petitioned the Queen, she's ignored it with the Barons.
She didn't know the
Please
Queen.
vote for the Queen.
No, the Queen didn't ignore the petition.
Has anybody gone to the army? Has anybody gone to the
No, that's another point. The army there are people that are having trying to get into the military side of it in that way. I haven't been
They're
able
not
to.
kissing the Queen's ass, aren't they?
Yes, well, look, this is another thing that we can try to bring the military in. The oath takers, okay. Let me just explain this. The Queen did respond to the Barons' petition. She did respond in the correct manner by bringing redress, by not allowing her government to ratify the Treaty of Nice. No. She basically replied stating, well, I'm just taking a direction from the government. But what people don't seem to realise is, if Magna Carta had null and void, then she would not have replied. She replied on the 39th day that the law, the common law, provided her to create a reply. She knew damn well that by her reply, the Barons Committee had no choice but to invoke Article 61 of the Magna Carta. They had no choice. Otherwise they had been breaching the Constitution also. So you can tell your oath keepers, this Article 61 was invoked by royal command, and that is the truth. It's part of the equal consideration in the Treaty of Magna Carta, where we can seize castles, take the lands, distress and distrain the monarch, save harming their person. That's the equal consideration in it. Okay? So we really need to think about doing something and coming together with a strategy to badger the body, is what we put it now, and to demand change, demand that they observe the truth. Other than that, we're just going to go down the same, we're going to carry on down the same downward spiral that we're on now, and you know, our children are going to suffer. I don't care about me so much, I've had 50 odd years, okay, but like, you know, I've got grandchildren and children of my own, and I care about them, and I care about the 5-year-olds, you know, that are big. The state has stolen 70,000 of our police through these secret, illegal courts. You know, we should be totally outraged by this, but we've been desensitized by the media, by the television, by the propaganda. And I'm just asking people to look into their hearts, think about this seriously. We're in a very dangerous situation, and please support us. And I'm going to leave it at that because I'm really interested in what the next speaker's got to say about the Common Law Court, because we also, this movement supports what the actions of the Common Law Court are doing, as well as the Chartist movement. We want unity, okay? We'll support the Dragons if they can get rid of some of the trolls they've got in place. We'll support the sovereign groups that are there, using their rules against them. But if we can come together with a strategy for change that's going to bring about change, then let's unite. Let's put our differences aside and unite. Thank you very much.
That was brilliant by David. Just 3 points. You mentioned about the police. Well, on the lighter side, we went down to a police station with several police stations, and they shut it down. And we were outside trying to contact them. And at one point, we phoned them on outside and said, "We've got dead bodies out here, you ought to come down." We weren't lying, because right beside us was a graveyard. So they did that. And that gentleman there, what can we do? I think he's gone. Yeah, what can we do? You don't need violence. Right. Let's say everyone in this room, if we've got 100,000 people, and you move your bank into one particular bank, let's say Lloyd's, and do not put any money in any of the other banks. You wait and see them jump. That's killing that beast. It's movement.
Yeah, but that's
Credit unions.
That's the power of money.
It's the power of the people, not money. You starve them and they collapse.
But
That's what it is.
Getting enough people to be forming a conscience to do that.
But you were talking about we're going to come up against it. Well, don't get that far. Just stop, and we'll. But that's coming with the Chartist movement. Before you all go, I'm going to ask you about starting your own little branches throughout the country. And the third thing, which I should have mentioned at the beginning, there's a silver bucket up there. If you could put a little deposit, 50 pence a pound, is to pay for this place and the lighting that and different things. But £100,000 would not go amiss, you know. So,